Returning unexpectedly early from a work trip, a man discovers his wife in bed with another man, shattering his life. Overwhelmed, he seeks refuge with a friend, confronts his wife, and is met with a cascade of half-truths and ultimate betrayal. As he navigates through heartbreak, counseling and legal proceedings, tensions rise and shocking revelations emerge. Will vengeance or forgiveness prevail? Follow this tumultuous journey of love, deceit, and resilience. We tell the terrible tale of infidelity betrayals today that destroys 2 lives. Early from a work trip, irreparably arrived home early to discover a man with my wife, wrecked both their lives in our bed. I'm not sure how to start, so don't mind if I just ruck through here. I was on a work trip out of town. Given the light of the task, I was expected to be back tomorrow, Friday. Yesterday, Wednesday, I arrived home early. As I was driving in, I discovered an unknown car in my driveway. Nobody claimed ownership of the automobile. I understood. I became vertigo over it. I headed to the backyard to reach the rear door, rather than the front gate. My bedroom window faces the rear. The curtain was not fully pulled off even though the window was latched. She was my wife, the love of my life, humping on an unidentified man, and I could see what I was fearing till now. At least I didn't know him, not sure about hers. Though I could have just walked in and faced them straight away, I was not in my senses. I was working in autopilot mode. I drove off from the property. Where should I go is unknown. I drove it till my head cold. Not sure what to do, I parked my car sideways and spent hours sitting inside. I had to talk about this with someone, but I wanted not to be open with any family member, so one of my close friends, Andy, lived in next town. I headed off to his house. Although I had other pals who live nearby, Andy is my cozy spot where I can let out frustrations free from concern about criticism. Andy and his wife have always known me with my sad luck. She left me alone with Andy and a few whiskey bottles I've hunted for hours. Drunk and devastated, I cannot recall when I passed out. This afternoon I woke up upright, lost concept of date and time, and ate something Andy made. He was working from home while his wife headed off to work. He advised me to first, at least, discuss it with my wife, and then see a counselor. That made me realize that yesterday after leaving the home I had turned off my phone. I turned on it, and my wife Stacey sent a couple messages. It was essentially inquiring about my day and the time I would be heading home tomorrow. Among all this, I neglected that Stacey and I had scheduled a week-long hiking excursion and that we were leaving tonight. She was inquiring about those specifics. I texted her she would have to overstay since something critical had come up at work. For 1 week more, I told her. She answered, I would cancel all the reservations for now. Alright, so I actually tossed away my phone after that call, as I felt so disgusted to talk to her. Andy's sister-in-law is a therapist in London. She patched me up on a video call for tomorrow. Let's see how I develop there now. All I can think of is wrath and violence. When I found them on my bed, I wish I could have smashed both their heads right away. She was doing it on our bed, and this infuriates me even more about her right on the bedroom front wall. Our wedding day is quite vividly shown here. Right in front of our wedding portrait. How could she cheat on me? I want a vacation from this emotion. Change one hello. I appreciate your amazing support. Simply said, it is quite daunting. Never realized that many people would be willing to provide me emotional support during this. Tough times actually imply a lot. Starting with the updates. I talked with the therapist for a decent 1 hour. She clarified things really well for me. I needed some illumination rather than clarity exactly. As soon as I noticed her cheating, I was sure that I wanted a divorce, but I was not clear on how to go about it. Simply said, the hatred and wrath were insufficient. Let me straighten out my thinking. Though that was all I wanted, strangling her that changed with time. To finish the papers, I also visited a lawyer. Andy and his wife offered me to stay with them. They even agreed to let me use their spare room as long as I wanted, but I don't want to crowd them. After sifting through all this, I have sought for a temporary, small condo for myself to live until the divorce is finalized. When I returned home, Stacey greeted me with the customary kisses and hugs. but I did not return the favor. I merely stood numb. What was wrong, she asked me. Nothing was mentioned. She inquired whether I harbored resentment toward her. I questioned her whether she had done anything illegal. No, she answered, and I looked at her coldly. She put on the impression of not knowing anything. She was clueless, but her guilt stopped her from defending. She was asked to come clean about everything she had been doing behind my back. Tears were running down her cheeks. She stated she was afraid to see such rage in my eyes, even though she had no idea what I was talking about. I simply couldn't spell out the things I saw that afternoon through the glass, how much more ever I wanted to. Why is not clear to me. She would deny doing anything wrong, as I urged her to confess. I got it packed with some basics and headed off. She tried to step in and stopped me several times when I was packing and going, but every time I urged her to confess, and she withdrew. It was such a horrible scenario. I was gasping and choking. I left the house headed to Andy's house, but I stayed loitering about the town for 1 hour. Stacey called me non-stop, and I wanted to hash it out with her. After 2 hours and hundreds of calls, my wrath, ego, or whatever my mind was depending on, was simply erratic. I answered and she asked me to come home and said she was ready to confess. When I got home, I drove back once more. She gave me a hug and whooped heavily. She went out drinking last week without telling me about her girls group and came home hooked. She asked me if I was furious. A 3-hour next-door friend had seen her coming home. She supposed you would have informed me. I admitted I knew nothing about the girls' nighttime habit. She stated that was meant to be a night for girls, but Becky, her friend, brought a couple of guys, and one of them volunteered to drop Stacey home since he was too drunk to drive alone. Was that it? I asked her. She answered yes and started apologizing for not letting me know about that evening. She wanted to confess and she stood motionless for a time and understood something else. This wasn't the cause of my wrath. She responded softly and actually, the party was at Becky's house and she invited some boys, but I and the other girls were not aware of this. After a while, Becky entered with one of the guys, then one of the guys became overly fixated on me and we carried out some typical activities. The boys were flirty. What was that typical stuff? I questioned her. I swear, but she stated simply touching and feeling each other. Nothing else happened and no penetrations and nothing. She was playing mind games, confessing the less severe ones, you see. She had no idea I had seen the entire show earlier. Another several rounds of these men confessions were placed. I would save the specifics of each of those foolish or invented tales. I was waiting for her to vomit out the final truth that I had seen when she was done with her cover-up admissions, so I hardly recall half of the specifics of those confessions. She froze like last Wednesday when I asked her which of these guys she was up on her bed last week. There has to be some misreading. I had done with her lies, screaming. I have witnessed it. She told the whole story after crying through defeat and hopelessness. It all began at a girls' night out among several men. While coming home, Becky invited these women she shared to the after-party at her house. Becky took one of the males to her room when Stacey and the other girls were headed home. For some, it was embarrassing, but finally everyone settled and Stacey hooked up with another man. She has been seeing that guy at Becky's house since then occasionally. She calls him home when I'm away. Stacey's phone was ringing. When we finally finished our conversation, she nodded when I asked her whether it was him. On the other end, I answered the phone app with indifference. After hearing my voice say, "Perhaps I dialed the incorrect number," I said, "No, man, and you have phoned the right number. Your wife would then get a call from me." He hung up. Stacey begged not to include app's wife. I had no idea he was married till then. I just shot in the dark and it landed exactly. I asked Stacey for her particulars. After much tears and reluctance, I made her phone app's wife and demand her to come clean. Stacey contacted her and, a few minutes after she hung up, admitted. App gave her a call. I invited her to respond. She responded apathetic on the other end, screamed at her for ruining his marriage. Stacey sobbed and apologized for everything, but she had to follow my advice if she wanted to repair her marriage. After the phone call, App reported his wife was packing her belongings and leaving the house, threatening to divorce and ruin him, all Stacey's fault. The chamber felt like a Holocaust chamber, frigid and stifling. She offered we go on a trip to help us to rebuild our relationship and tried caressing me. She took my silence for pardon. I stated I hired a lawyer to serve her and had somewhere for myself. Hearing this shocked her and she gasped for breath. She insisted she'd done everything. I asked her, even destroying Axe marriage to preserve ours. Her comment almost made me giggle. I left the house requesting her to leave, or I could move the lease under her name. She behaved in a devastated manner, but I left nonetheless. Her parents and mine both called me several times. She had told them, over little arguments, I am divorcing her and asking them to help me through this. I told her dad the truth and that man stood by me. I didn't tell my parents anything, simply assured them I'm not changing my position. His comments got me emotional, and I worked out on the conversation. I felt fairly calm after he advised I do whatever I believe right, and he is with me always. His encouragement offered me much needed peace of mind. I'm residing in Andy's spare room for this weekend. Next week I'll have ownership of the condo, perhaps. By then Stacy will be served with the paperwork. Right now, that is all the update I have, and thanks for helping me through this difficult period. From me, everybody who needs it should get back this love and encouragement. Thank you for viewing this. Kindly like the video and follow our channel to access more incredible materials.